Joseph's life as the favored son ended the moment he was thrown into a pit by his own brothers. They stripped him of his coat and sold him to passing traders, effectively deleting his identity and his freedom in a single transaction. He was taken from the Canaanite highlands and moved along the established trade routes, traveling south into the heart of the Egyptian empire. Joseph was eventually sold in a bustling Egyptian market. His buyer was Potiphar, an elite officer in Pharaoh's inner circle and the captain of the guard. Joseph was now a foreign servant in a household of immense power. In this hostile, unfamiliar environment, something unexpected began to happen. Every task Joseph was assigned, from organizing the storehouses to managing the household staff, resulted in immediate, measurable success for the estate. Potiphar realized that his wealth multiplied whenever Joseph was in charge. Recognizing the objective value of this success, he promoted Joseph to be his personal attendant, eventually placing him in charge of his entire household and all his assets. By his early 20s, Joseph held absolute administrative authority over a massive Egyptian estate. However, this created a sharp paradox. He controlled everything Potiphar owned, yet he remained a piece of property himself, with no legal rights to protect him. The narrative notes that Joseph was striking in appearance, a trait that quickly drew the attention of Potiphar's wife. As the person with domestic authority over the servants, she began to pressure Joseph to sleep with her. This was a daily, relentless campaign. She didn't just ask once, she used her position of power to corner him repeatedly, creating a constant environment of harassment within the walls where he worked. Joseph's refusal was based on logic and ethics. He explained that Potiphar had trusted him with everything in the house, making a betrayal of that trust a moral impossibility. Furthermore, he argued that such an act would be a direct sin against God. Joseph viewed his survival and his rise to power as a direct result of God's intervention. Because he attributed his success to a divine source, he felt he could not compromise his integrity without losing the very foundation of his life. While slavery had taken his freedom, the palace offered a different threat. Joseph was now surrounded by comfort and influence, and his character was being tested by how he handled this proximity to power and temptation. The situation reached a breaking point on a day when the house was unusually quiet. Joseph arrived to perform his duties, only to find that every other servant and household member was gone. Potiphar's wife seized the opportunity. She physically blocked his path and grabbed him by his outer garment, demanding he comply with her. Joseph made a split-second calculation. That garment was the physical sign of his high status and authority in the house. To leave it was to lose his position, but to stay was to lose his integrity. He chose to slip out of the garment and fled the house, leaving the fabric in her hands as he ran into the street. Seeing that he had escaped, she immediately shifted her approach. She kept the garment as a prop and prepared a false narrative to tell her husband and the rest of the household. When the servants returned, she deliberately called Joseph that Hebrew, using his foreign origin to trigger resentment among the Egyptian staff. She claimed he had attempted to attack her and used the abandoned garment as her proof. She relied on her class privilege and a fabricated story to destroy Joseph's reputation. Meanwhile, Joseph had nothing left but his history of honest work and his faith. When Potiphar returned, his wife presented the garment and the false accusation. The betrayal seemed total, and Potiphar's anger was immediate and explosive. Joseph was arrested and thrown into the royal dungeon, the place where Pharaoh's personal prisoners were kept. This chart visualizes his collapse. Joseph fell from the highest administrative hierarchy to the lowest tier of the state prison. This royal prison was an isolated dead end with no trial. Yet even here, his pattern of success began to emerge again. His external reputation was destroyed, but his internal capacity for leadership remained intact. The dungeon didn't change who he was. The text provides the reason for what happened next with a single recurring phrase, "But the Lord was with Joseph." Just as he had impressed Potiphar, Joseph's character and competence quickly won the favor of the chief warden of the prison. The warden eventually put Joseph in charge of all the other prisoners. He wasn't just an inmate. He managed the logistics, oversaw the personnel, and ran the daily operations. It is a remarkable irony. The Egyptian empire had tried to remove Joseph from society, but now the state's own prison system relied entirely on his management to function. Joseph's journey shows that leadership and influence are not dependent on a title or a palace. Through unwavering integrity, he turned a prison cell into a foundation for real authority.